Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. Night gathers in a hush of violet, and the fields of the world breathe out their warmth. Wheat sighs in the breeze. Fig leaves shimmer with a memory of sweetness. The last fireflies stitch quiet gold into the hems of twilight. The earth is unfastening its long braids, and somewhere in that gentle untying a name is waiting to be spoken. Persephone. She is not yet a queen, only a promise moving through tall grass. She walks barefoot and the soil remembers. Each step is a kindness pressed into the dark. A tender sentence the earth has been longing to hear. The air carries the thin music of crickets, the hush of doves returning to their roofs, and a calm so deep it feels like a lake without wind. Persephone slows. She is searching, though she would not call it that. She is listening for the seam that pulls daylight to night, listening for a door not made with hands. You know this listening too. The stillness before sleep, the drift along the threshold where things are both true and possible. Here, in this twilight, the story of descent does not begin with taking, but with an invitation. A question the soul asks when it has grown enough to hold two truths at once: the hunger for life and the wonder of the hidden. At the edge of the field stands a grove of dark pines. They are tall and patient, each trunk a pillar of quiet that has counted more winters than men have sung. Persephone steps into their shade, and the evening cools around her like a veil dipped in moonlight. The grove is not a warning. It is a lullaby sung in a lower key. Needles soften the ground. Resin perfumes the air, and, beneath her feet, the world begins to feel hollow in a listening way, like a shell you lift to your ear to hear an ocean you cannot see. A path reveals itself the way a memory does when you stop trying to remember. It curves like a slow river between the trees, and she follows. The first star pierces the sky, then another, and soon a thin constellation gathers above the black roofs of the pines. The pattern is familiar though unnamed, as if the stars have arranged themselves in the shape of a promise she made to herself in a dream she loved and forgot and has now found again. There is a stone at the end of the path, a wide, low altar veined with pale quartz like morning trapped inside rock. On its face a cut, barely more than a crack, runs from one side to the other. It is the seam of a book the world has kept shut. It is the place where a door will be if a door is needed. Persephone lays her palm upon the stone. It is warm with the day's remembered sun. Yet under the warmth there is a cool pulse, slow and old, like the breath of caverns. "Are you the threshold?" she asks, though only with her bones. The stone answers with silence that listens back. Somewhere, in that listening, a footstep answers, measured, unhurried, like the approach of winter that neither rushes nor waits. The air changes. The scent of pine and wild thyme deepens, turns dusky, becomes the fragrance of earth after rain in a place where rain has never fallen. The first time a name touches the edges of the moment, it is not spoken aloud. It is felt the way we feel arrival before we see it. The name is a shadow with a crown. The name is an evening that never runs out. Hades. Do not fear the word. In this telling, darkness is not a hunger for the sun, but a home for light to rest. Hades stands where the last of the day breaks like a thin wave against the shore of night. He is tall and still, and the stillness is not empty. It is a listener's stillness, an attention so complete that even silence feels seen. Around his shoulders the shadows gather the way swallows do on a wire before a long flight. His eyes are not cold. They are deep. In their depth, things are kept. Lost songs, unspent tears, the moss of forgotten names, the gold of vows kept in secret. He looks at Persephone the way a quiet place looks at a candle, not craving it, not fearing it, but recognizing what it can become together. When he speaks, his voice is the low part of a harp, the string you hear under all the others. You found the seam, he says, and the world hears him without sound. Or it found you. Persephone does not bow. She has the courtesy of the living, which is to remain herself even in the presence of wonder. I followed what listened back, she answers. If there is a door, I came to ask whether it opens for joy, not only for grief. Hades' mouth softens. A winter rose opens somewhere underground. There are doors for each, he says, but the one I keep is for truth. Truth receives joy and grief without breaking. He moves closer, and the pine shadows fold like slow water around them both. The world above is a bright chorus, he says. It needs its echo to be complete. Will you walk where roots dream and rivers remember their source? The question is a mirror. In it, Persephone sees herself not as a girl in a field, but as a seed taught by spring to open and by autumn to let go. She thinks of her mother's hands, their warm labor, their stubborn love, and of the old stories told at harvest about a daughter lost to the dark. But those stories were written by fear, and fear is a narrow scribe. The world is wider than that ink. Perhaps the underworld is not a theft but a season. Perhaps the descent is not an ending but a learning of depths so that the heights can be real. Will there be a return? She asks softly. Hades does not answer with a promise he does not own. There will be rhythm, he says. There will be a circle so true that leaving is a form of staying and staying is a form of return. There will be a crown, but not the kind that weighs. There will be seeds, but not the kind that bind. Choose not because you are compelled, but because you are complete. The stone under her palm cools, as if the day is releasing its last breath. The cut in its face widens by the width of a whisper. From the seam rises the faintest shimmer, like heat above a road. Except this is the cool gleam of deep places where light learns to be patient. Hades extends his hand. It is not a demand. It is a lantern offered by a traveler who knows the way. Persephone stands very still. She lets the world inside her come to rest. She thinks of wheat and winter, of laughter around ovens, of footpaths shining with dew at dawn. She thinks of the quiet ache in her that does not go away even when the sun is kind. She thinks of what it would mean to know the names of shadows so that no child would fear them. She thinks of love that is not a possession but a place. The decision comes the way dreams come when you stop chasing them. On its own feet, accurate and calm. She takes his hand. The seam becomes a staircase of stone. The first step is the sound of her breath. The second is the hush of pine. The third is the memory of a spring she will one day call back from sleeping. Down they go, not falling, not fleeing, but descending like a bell lowered into a temple pool, making the water sing as it passes. The air cools and grows fragrant with minerals. The ceiling glints with mica like captured starlight, and the walls bear carvings older than wheat. Here, myths are written not with ink but with patience. Here, a story takes the time it needs to become true. They reach a landing where a small tree grows from the stone, impossible yet tender. Its leaves are dark as night water. Its blossoms are pale as breath on glass. In its branches hang 6 fruits, red as embers under ash. Pomegranate. The old tale would call them binding. In this telling, they are syllables of a vow said correctly. Not an iron chain but a measured music. Hades touches a leaf with a reverence that has nothing to do with owning. Each seed is a season, he says. Take what you can keep without breaking your rhythm. Persephone listens. The fruits are quiet as hearts. She chooses none, not yet. Let me know the kingdom before I speak its name, she answers, and Hades inclines his head like a keeper pleased that a traveler has chosen to learn the roads before asking for a map. The staircase opens onto a cavern vast enough to cradle the dreams of mountains. The roof is a night that never becomes morning and never needs to. The floor is a plain of dark sand rippled like the pages of a book the sea forgot to close. In the distance, slow rivers carry a faint gleam, and the sound they make is like wind in wheat, an echo from the world above, a promise that distance is only a kind of listening. The dead move here not as shadows but as memories given shape. They are not lost. They are being kept. Perception softens around them the way mist softens the sharpness of a field at dawn. Welcome, Hades says. The word does not belong to palaces. It belongs to hospitality, which is a kind of faith. He leads her along a path of obsidian stepping stones glossed like moon water. As they walk, the quiet greets her. It is not an emptiness. It is a fullness tuned low. Here, grief has room to breathe until it becomes devotion. Here, joy is tempered until it can be carried through winters. They pass a bridge of black marble under which a river moves with the patience of ages. A ferryman stands at its shore, his boat moored to a post polished by many hands. He is old the way roots are old, thin and strong in the same place. He bows to Persephone as if recognizing a title not yet worn. No coins change hands. The price of passage is presence. She meets his eyes, and in them she sees a kindness made of exactness. Every soul ferried, none forgotten, none hurried. One day, says Hades softly, you will know each current by its sound. Past the river rises a meadow, which surprises her. We are taught to think the underworld is all stone and sorrow, but even darkness keeps gardens. Pale grasses sway, irrigated by dew that falls upward. Flowers bloom in colors you feel rather than name. Fragrances of memory, tints of vows, hues of silence. Persephone kneels and touches the soil. It is cool and alive, a dreaming held in trust. What will this place be to me? She asks. Hades answers with the dignity of someone who understands that authority is stewardship. What you ask it to be, he says. A house of thresholds, a school of gentleness. A city where endings learn their quieter name, beginnings other hand. They come at last to a hall of pillars carved from the slow patience of basalt. Fire does not burn here, It glows, a light that has learned to stay. At the end of the hall waits a throne of stone and shadow. Beside it stands a second seat, unclaimed, unhurried, not a lesser chair but a partner's presence shaped into rest. Persephone does not sit. Not yet. She stands between them, at the exact middle where choice becomes destiny because it was chosen. Hades stops beside her. He does not ask. He offers. If you come as captive, you will never be queen, he says gently. If you come as guest, we will keep the laws of welcome. If you come as yourself, the realm will answer to the name you give it. Persephone closes her eyes. The world above turns in her mind. Orchards lit like small suns, temples washed with milk and honey, laughter folded into baskets with bread. She opens her eyes. The world below waits, not asking her to be smaller, not asking her to be other, asking only that she be true at a deeper octave. Between one breath and the next, she knows. She has not been stolen. She has arrived. Show me the roads, she says. Teach me the names of the rivers. Let the stones tell me their winters. When I am ready, I will choose my season. Hades bows not as a king to a subject but as one keeper to another. Then be welcome, Persephone, he says, a warmth like the first ember of a hearth beginning in his voice. Be welcome to the kingdom of listening. And so begins the learning that will become a reign, the descent that is not disappearance but deepening. Above, the wheat sleeps curled like a cat. The moon goes about its measured work. Demeter pauses in her counting of granaries and feels a quiet in the air she has never felt before. It is not loss, not yet. It is the first note of a chord that will one day resolve into spring. For now, the underworld breathes, the way a great sea breathes under ice. Persephone walks its shore with a lantern of attention in her hand, and the shadows gather not to swallow her, but to be named. In the naming they soften. In the softening they belong. Sleep, listener. We will follow her farther next time, where a crown learns to weigh nothing, and a seed learns the sound of return. The underworld hums with a quiet older than sorrow. It is not a place of punishment, but of patience, where every sound is a remembrance, and every silence a gesture of mercy. Persephone walks beside Hades along a corridor of obsidian pillars that echo faintly with the rhythm of unseen rivers. The walls seem to breathe with her steps, alive with the memory of all who have passed before. Here sound behaves differently. Words do not vanish when spoken. They linger like incense, folding and refolding upon themselves until they become part of the air. Each whisper contributes to a larger harmony, a chorus of every voice that ever spoke truth in the dark. Hades calls it the kingdom of listening. This place, he says, was not built by hands. It grew where silence learned compassion. Persephone listens. The echoes move around her like a tide. They do not overwhelm. They cradle. Somewhere within that vast stillness, she senses the faint heartbeat of the world above, slow and steady. Proof that the two realms are not divided, only distanced. For the first time, she understands that descent is not exile. It is depth. They come upon a gate of bronze filigree that opens by listening to its visitor's intent. Hades does not touch it. He merely stands, and the metal sighs open, recognizing him. Persephone follows through, and they enter a garden that glows without sun or flame. The light here is born of remembering, a pale luminescence that feels like dawn reflected on the inside of the heart. Each garden in this realm grows from something surrendered, Hades explains. A memory laid down with love becomes a seed. Grief, when given rest, grows into shelter. That is why the air here feels tender. It is made of acceptance. She kneels beside a bed of silver moss and brushes her fingers across its surface. Visions flicker faintly beneath her touch. A mother's laugh, a child's first word, a friend's last promise kept. Each memory, resting here in its gentler form, feeds the soil. Persephone feels awe instead of fear. For all her life, she had been told that the underworld devoured what it took. Yet this place does not devour, it transforms. They walk deeper, and the path opens to a lake whose surface is so still that it mirrors not only form but feeling. This is Lethe, Hades says, the river of forgetting. But forgetting, too, is misunderstood. It is not erasure, it is mercy. It allows the soul to set down what it cannot yet carry without breaking. Persephone watches as faint shadows approach the lake's edge. Souls, weary from memory, dipping their fingers into the cool water. Each touch releases a faint shimmer, as though burdens are being translated into light. She understands, then, that even loss has rhythm. It exhales what the living hold too tightly. Do you ever drink from it? She asks. Hades shakes his head. I am the keeper of memory. To forget would be to unmake what I guard. But I do listen to its song when the weight of eternity grows too familiar. Even a god must remember why silence matters. They move on. Ahead, a stairway curves downward into what appears to be the heart of the earth. The air cools, scented faintly of stone and the sweetness of unseen blooms. Torches of pale flame mark the way, their light steady, almost breathing. Persephone descends without hesitation. She is no longer a visitor but a witness. At the base of the stairs lies the Hall of Echoes. It stretches farther than sight, its walls carved with constellations that no sky has ever held. Between those stars drift the faint outlines of dreams, human, divine, and forgotten alike. Every dream that dies without being spoken finds its rest here, Hades says. They wait until someone learns to dream them again. Persephone walks among them. Each echo brushes her consciousness like the wings of small birds. She feels the weight of them, the unfulfilled wishes of countless hearts, the stories half-lived, the songs begun but never sung. She feels tears rise, not of grief but of tenderness. They're beautiful, she whispers, even in their silence. That is the truth of endings, Hades replies. Nothing truly ends. It simply changes the way it asks to be understood. She turns toward him. And what do you ask to be understood as? He looks at her, a faint light moving across his eyes like dawn over obsidian. Not as death, he says quietly, as depth, as the space that allows being to breathe. Without shadow, light forgets its grace. The words settle in her bones like a key in the right lock. For the first time, Persephone sees that his realm mirrors the heart, dark only when unentered, alive when touched with presence. She begins to understand why she was drawn here. not to vanish, but to learn the fullness of things. From the far end of the hall, a shape emerges, an ancient woman woven of shadow and light, carrying a spindle that glows faintly gold. "This is Mnemosyne," Hades murmurs, "mother of memory. She keeps the threads that tie the living and the gone." Mnemosyne bows her head. "Child of spring," she says to Persephone, her voice a gentle wind in leaves. "The world above sings of your loss, yet I see only your becoming. You have descended not to be taken, but to remember what the light forgets, that all beauty must learn to rest in darkness to endure." Persephone bows in return, deeply moved. "Then teach me," she says. "Let me learn the silence that listens." The old goddess smiles. "Silence is not absence," she replies. "It is the cradle of meaning. When you master it, even the stones will speak to you, and you will understand their patience." Mnemosyne hands her the spindle. It is warm to the touch, humming faintly like a heartbeat. "Spin what you wish to keep," she says. "But remember, the thread is both tether and gift. What you weave will connect the realms." Persephone nods, understanding that this moment is not a ceremony but a covenant. She takes the spindle and feels it pulse with possibilities. Each beat of its hum writes a promise: to listen, to learn, to lead without ruling. For that is the kind of queen this world needs, one who hears. When they leave the Hall of Echoes, Persephone carries the spindle against her heart. The weight of it is perfect, neither heavy nor light, as if balanced by purpose. The path leads upward again, to a vast chamber where a river runs bright as molten moonlight. Souls move across it in quiet procession, guided by a current that never fails. "This is the Styx," says Hades, "the river of oaths. Every vow uttered before it must be true, for the river remembers." Persephone kneels beside the flow, and the water murmurs in voices she cannot quite name. They sound like truth learning to speak. "Do I need to swear something?" she asks softly. Hades watches her. "Only if you wish to mark your own becoming." She dips her fingers into the current. The water is cool, then warm, then neither, like time passing through touch. "Then I vow," she whispers, "to listen to the shadows until they are no longer lonely, to learn the dark until it becomes a garden." The water answers with a quiet flare of silver. The oath is sealed. As they rise, the ceiling of the chamber shifts. It is no longer stone but a mirror of the night sky, the constellations rearranging themselves into new forms. A crown, a seed, a door. Persephone gazes upward, her heart steady. "So this is what it means to reign," she says softly. "Not to command, but to understand." Hades inclines his head. "And to endure. For understanding is not a single act. It is a rhythm." They walk together until the light thins into silence. Around them, the underworld hums its low music. Every shadow seems to breathe more gently now, as though it knows its name is being learned. Persephone closes her eyes and listens. The sound is vast, tender, and eternal. The heartbeat of a world that has never been lost, only waiting to be heard. Sleep now, listener. In the next part, we follow the blooming queen as she learns to weave the balance between worlds, where each seed holds both night and dawn. The spindle of memory rests against Persephone's heart as she walks deeper into the kingdom that listens. Each step is soft, a rhythm in time with rivers unseen. The underworld no longer feels like darkness to her. It feels like soil, rich, waiting, alive with things about to grow. Days cannot be counted here, for light follows the breath of meaning rather than the clock of the sun. Still, Persephone feels something changing, not around her but within. Her thoughts begin to bloom like the faint roots of seeds testing the depth of earth. She no longer measures herself by what she left above, but by what she is learning below. Hades watches from a quiet distance. He does not command her path, nor guide her too closely. He is patient as stone, allowing her silence to find its own shape. In his gaze there is no ownership, only awareness, the kind that sees the world not as possession, but as pulse. One evening, though evening here means only a dimming of echoes, Persephone wanders to the edge of a wide chasm. Mist rises from its depths, luminous as the breath of sleeping mountains. She kneels, peering into the veil that hides what lies beneath. The air smells faintly of rain, of endings softened into beginnings. "What lies below?" she asks, not expecting an answer. "The roots of the world," says a voice. It is not Hades, but the voice of the chasm itself, slow and resonant. Everything that lives above draws strength from what we keep. We are the unseen bloom. Persephone listens. The mist stirs, forming shapes like petals unfurling in slow motion. Each wisp carries a face, a memory, a moment once lived. A child's laugh, a lover's final breath, the sigh of forests long gone. All that has ever died whispers here, not as ghosts, but as nourishment. The underworld is not a grave. It is compost for the soul. A sudden warmth spreads through her chest. The spindle begins to hum faintly, threads of golden light winding themselves around her wrist. She understands, then, that to weave memory is to feed life, that nothing is lost when it is tended with care. As she rises, she senses Hades behind her. "You heard them," he says quietly. "I did," she answers. "They are not gone. They are growing." A faint smile touches his lips. "You see why the living fear us. They think endings devour, but endings only prepare." She meets his gaze. "Then what of me? What am I preparing to become?" He looks toward the mist. A bridge, a rhythm that joins the pulse of soil to the breath of sky. Persephone turns the spindle in her hands. The golden thread glows faintly brighter. "A bridge cannot exist without both sides," she says softly. "And neither side without trust," Hades replies. He gestures toward the chasm, and from its depths rises a slow, glowing wind, a current of dust and memory. Together they step into it, and it bears them downward, deeper than she has yet gone. The descent is not frightening. It feels like returning to the heartbeat of something vast and kind. They arrive in a cavern wide as a dream. Its ceiling is veined with veins of crystal, each one pulsing faintly with color. Rivers of light flow across the floor like liquid dawn. At the center grows a single tree, immense, pale, and rooted in shadow. Its branches shimmer with blossoms of glass. The petals hold faint reflections of the world above. Oceans, storms, fields of grain swaying beneath the sun. This is the bloom beneath the veil, says Hades. Its roots hold both worlds. Every spring that touches the surface begins here. Persephone approaches, breath catching at the sight. The tree hums faintly, a low song that seems to come from every living thing at once. She touches its bark, and visions flood her. Seeds pushing through soil, lovers waking beside each other, children crying their first breath, rivers thawing after long winters. The rhythm of existence flows through her like a heartbeat shared between worlds. When she opens her eyes, tears glisten along her lashes. "It's beautiful," she whispers, "but it looks fragile." Hades nods. "Because it is honest. It lives by trust, not by force." Each bloom is the memory of a promise kept, between the living and the gone, between night and morning. Persephone watches as one blossom opens near her hand, releasing a faint mist of silver pollen. The air fills with warmth and the scent of fresh rain. "Will it always bloom?" she asks. "Only as long as balance is kept," Hades says. "If one world forgets the other, the roots withdraw, and spring itself falters." She looks at him steadily. "Then I will not let them forget." The words leave her lips like a vow, and the tree responds, its light deepening, petals shivering with brightness. Beneath their feet, the cavern floor trembles slightly, not with danger, but with awakening. Hades studies her, quiet pride hidden beneath the calm of centuries. "Already, the realm knows you," he says. "The earth listens differently when you speak." Persephone steps back from the tree and gazes upward. The ceiling's crystals shimmer like constellations beneath a lake. "I used to think the world above was everything," she murmurs. "Now I see it was only half a song." "Completion," Hades says, "is not the death of difference. It is its harmony." They linger there a long while, speaking little. Time feels unnecessary. The light from the tree shifts gently from silver to gold to violet, tracing the breath of unseen cycles. Persephone sits at its roots, and from the spindle at her side unspools a length of thread. She begins to weave, not with her hands, but with her attention. Each loop binds memory to meaning, sorrow to softness, loss to understanding. The web she forms hums faintly, like the sound of growing things at night. As she weaves, faint figures begin to appear, shades drawn by her care. They are the quiet dead, approaching slowly, not in mourning but in curiosity. They kneel near the tree, feeling its warmth. One reaches toward Persephone, not to touch, but to thank. Their faces are serene. The realm brightens. "They recognize you," says Hades. "They know the heart that listens." Persephone smiles. "Then let them rest. Let them remember that the dark is not cruel." The shades bow their heads, dissolving into light that joins the roots below. The air feels lighter, as though grief itself has exhaled. Persephone continues to weave, the spindle spinning softly between her fingers. Patterns emerge. Rivers, mountains, hearts. The tapestry of life stitched across death's quiet cloth. Hours or eternities pass. Finally, Hades kneels beside her. "You are ready for the next knowing," he says. "The one hidden even from gods." She glances at him, curiosity rising like dawn. And what is that? He points toward the base of the tree, where a small pool of perfectly still water lies. Reflection, he says. The understanding that every realm you enter also enters you. Persephone leans over the pool. Her reflection shimmers, at first her face, then Demeter's, then the fields above, and then Hades himself. All merge and dissolve until she sees not forms, but a single pulse of light. She realizes that she and the world are woven of the same thread. To heal one is to tend the other. Tears fall into the pool, and ripples bloom outward, tracing golden rings on the surface. The ripples climb the tree's trunk as if it were drinking her understanding. The blossoms glow brighter than ever, each one opening fully, releasing a rain of light across the cavern. It is not mere beauty, it is renewal. The underworld breathes. Hades' voice is low. You have done what even gods forget to do. You have listened until the silence bloomed. Persephone turns to him. And what do I become now? He meets her gaze, steady and reverent. The Queen of Shadows, not for dominion, but for depth. You will walk between seasons, carrying balance in your breath. When the world forgets its rhythm, you will remind it. The words sink into her, not as command but as truth already known. She closes her eyes, breathing in the scent of the luminous blossoms. She feels both rooted and rising, both soil and sky. The veil between worlds no longer divides her. It blooms through her. When she opens her eyes again, the cavern is quiet. The tree's petals drift gently downward, dissolving as they touch the ground. From the pool, a single bloom rises and settles into her hands. A flower made of shadow and light, living and still. It hums softly, the sound of renewal itself. She holds it to her chest. Then let it begin, she whispers, and the world listens. Sleep now, listener. In the next part, the queen learns the cost of balance and the promise of return. Time, as mortals know it, does not move in the underworld. Here it turns like a circle drawn in quiet water, endless, smooth, and without beginning. But in Persephone's heart, something new has begun to stir. A rhythm that remembers both growth and rest. It is the pulse of return. The bloom she carries, the one born from light and shadow, hums softly against her chest as she walks through the dim corridors of the realm. Its glow casts a gentle illumination on basalt walls, and the shadows it creates seem to lean forward, listening. Wherever she passes, the air warms, and small threads of pale moss begin to grow in her wake. The kingdom is changing. So is she. When she first arrived, Persephone had descended as a guest. Now she walks as a keeper. The souls bow their heads in quiet acknowledgement, not in fear, but in recognition of balance made flesh. They feel her presence the way seeds feel rain. In the Hall of Rivers, she finds Hades waiting beside a flow of silver water. He stands still as always, yet there is a subtle lightness to his stillness, as though her arrival has tuned the silence to a higher note. You have been weaving, he says. The underworld listens differently now. Persephone touches the spindle at her waist, its golden thread still warm from use. It listens because it is being heard, she answers. When the forgotten are remembered, They cease to haunt. They begin to teach. Hades inclines his head slightly, approval hidden in the calm of his voice. Then you are learning the true weight of a crown. It is not the metal that burdens. It is the hearing. She looks into the flowing river, its current bright with faint reflections of lives above. And yet, she says softly, even hearing has its cost. He watches her carefully. You feel the pull of the upper world. I do, she admits. I feel the wheat turning, the warmth rising through roots that call my name. The cycle above begins to ache for its other half. My mother feels it too, though she does not know why. I hear her calling in dreams. Hades nods, his gaze steady. So it begins. Even balance must breathe. What rests below must rise, or all becomes stillness without life. But return is not retreat, it is rhythm. And rhythm asks for a promise. Persephone looks up. What promise? That you will come back, he says quietly. Not as captive, not as debt, but as keeper of both. The words fall into her like seeds into soil. She understands that the balance of the world depends not on boundaries but on movement. Life must die to feed itself. Darkness must rest to let light renew. To break that rhythm would be to silence the world's heartbeat. She reaches into the folds of her robe and draws out the flower of shadow and light. Its petals pulse softly, each one a memory of both realms. Then let there be a mark of my vow, she says. Something to remind both worlds that their roots are shared. Hades' eyes deepen, their darkness alive with reflection. Such a mark must be planted, he says, and every planting must choose its seed. He gestures toward the river. Its current parts, revealing a small hollow in the earth. From the depths rise 6 shimmering seeds, small, red, and gleaming like droplets of living dusk. Persephone recognizes them immediately. Pomegranate. In the old telling, Hades says, these seeds were a bond of loss, but truth shifts with the hands that hold it. Eat if you wish to stay. Plant if you wish to return. The choice is not between worlds. It is between meanings. Persephone gazes at the seeds. They seem to hum faintly with possibility. And if I plant them, then they will grow roots in both realms, he answers. And through those roots you will travel as rhythm itself. Part of you will rest below. Part will bloom above. In that motion, life will continue. She kneels by the riverbank. The air around her shivers softly, as though the world is holding its breath. One by one, she presses each seed into the dark soil. With every seed, she feels a pulse rise through her. Birth, sleep, hunger, rain, dawn. Each moment of existence becomes a note in her growing song. When the 6th seed is planted, the ground glows faintly red, and from it rises a new plant, a small sapling of light and shadow intertwined. Its leaves shimmer like dusk before dawn. The spindle hums, and the thread upon it unwinds, spiraling around the sapling until it becomes part of the tree itself. The air fills with the faint scent of spring. Hades steps closer. It is done, he says. The rhythm is written. Persephone stands, brushing soil from her hands. Then I will go when the time calls, she says, and return when the silence needs its song again. He reaches out, touching her hand briefly. You will not walk alone, even when apart. Wherever roots touch, I will feel your step. Their eyes meet, no promise of forever, only the truth of cycles. In that gaze is eternity's quiet kindness, that love does not need to bind to endure. It only needs to listen. A deep sound rises from the far halls, a murmur that grows into a wind. The realm itself is stirring. The rivers shimmer brighter, and the fields of the dead exhale faint wisps of golden mist. Persephone walks toward the great staircase carved from onyx and time. The souls gather along her path, their faces calm. Some bow, some smile faintly, and some simply watch with the peaceful eyes of those who understand endings are beginnings in disguise. At the foot of the stairs, she pauses and looks back. Hades stands at a distance, the faint light of the pomegranate tree glimmering behind him. Until the next rhythm, he says. She inclines her head. Until the next listening. The steps rise beneath her feet as she ascends. Each level grows brighter, the air warmer. The faint hum of the underworld fades into the song of unseen birds. She can feel the weight of the spindle in her hand, though now it glows like dawn caught in thread. At last, she emerges through the seam in the stone, the same one she touched when her journey began. Only now it opens into a field shivering with the breath of spring. The air is alive with the scent of earth thawing, of rain learning to fall again. Persephone steps out, and the world exhales in relief. Above, clouds scatter. The sun returns like a promise renewed. Flowers begin to bloom where her shadow falls. Rivers quicken their pace, and distant farmers feel warmth return to their fields. None see her, yet all feel her. The Queen of Shadows has risen, and with her, life awakens. Far away, Demeter feels it too. Her heart, long clenched in winter, loosens. She looks to the horizon and whispers her daughter's name. The wheat begins to rise. Birds return. The world remembers joy. Persephone stands amid the field, the spindle glowing faintly in her hand. For a moment, she feels the pull of both realms, the quiet breath of the underworld and the bright sigh of the sky. She closes her eyes and listens. The two sounds intertwine, forming a single harmony. Balance restored. She kneels and presses her hand to the soil. Grow, she whispers, not just for life, but for the love that learns to let go. The pomegranate seeds buried far below answer. Their roots stretch upward, invisible but strong, binding worlds through rhythm. Every spring, they will bloom red beneath the snowmelt, a secret reminder that endings feed beginnings. As she rises, a breeze moves through the field. It carries the scent of moss and ash, of rain and stone. The underworld's breath mingled with that of the earth. Persephone smiles. She has not left. She has become both. From the horizon, the first light of dawn unfurls. The world glows with it. Birds rise, rivers speak, and in the silence between their songs, one can almost hear a low hum. The spindle, still spinning in time with the heart of creation. Sleep, listener. In the next part, Persephone will face the grief of return. The world that forgot her, the mother who must learn the meaning of letting go, and the rhythm that binds even gods to love. Spring awakens gently, as if the world itself is unsure it has permission to breathe again. Frost thins along the edges of stone, rivers loosen their long-held sighs, and the first buds open like small astonishments. Everywhere, life stretches after a long sleep, and yet within its joy lingers something bittersweet, like laughter beneath which memory hides its quiet ache. Persephone walks through the waking fields. The air shimmers with sunlight, but its warmth feels unfamiliar, almost foreign. Each flower she passes turns toward her, and yet she feels a distance between her steps and the world's heartbeat. She has brought spring back, but it no longer belongs only to her mother's hands. It belongs also to the silence she has learned below. Birds sing, and their voices remind her of the echoes in Hades' halls. The scent of rain on soil reminds her of the breath of Lethe. Even the golden wheat holds shadows at its roots. The two realms have mingled within her, inseparable now. When she reaches the edge of the field, she sees Demeter waiting. The goddess of harvest stands still, her robes heavy with months of grief, her hair streaked with the pale dust of forgotten altars. But when she sees her daughter, her sorrow cracks open like thawing ice. "My child," Demeter whispers. The words tremble between disbelief and prayer. Persephone steps forward, her heart caught between joy and guilt. "Mother!" The world brightens. Birds rise from trees. Rivers rush faster. It is as if creation itself exhales in relief. Demeter runs to her, gathering her into arms that once taught her how to knead bread, how to braid wheat, how to wait for rain. She holds her tightly, as though holding could undo absence. For a long moment, neither speaks. The earth hums around them, green and gold. But beneath that music, a softer tone lingers, the echo of another world, patient and waiting. When at last Demeter pulls back, her eyes shine with tears. "The world froze when you were gone," she says. "Fields withered, the rivers slept, even the sun seemed weary. I thought I had lost you to the dark forever." Persephone takes her hands. "You did not lose me," she says gently. "You only let me grow where light could not reach. And in that soil, I found a kind of truth the sun had forgotten." Demeter frowns, confusion softening her features. "Truth? In that place? It is not what the old stories told," Persephone replies. "There is no cruelty there, only patience. The underworld is not death, it is depth. It keeps what the living are not yet ready to remember. It is where life learns its rhythm." Her mother shakes her head, grief clashing with awe. "And yet it took you from me." Persephone lowers her gaze. "No," she says softly. "It taught me that nothing can truly be taken when love knows how to listen." Demeter's hands tighten around hers. "Then stay," she pleads. "Stay, and let the world bloom without end. Let the soil never sleep again." The words pierce Persephone. For a heartbeat, she wishes she could agree, wishes that spring could last forever. But she knows what endless bloom would mean. No rest for roots, no renewal for seed, no rhythm for life. Without descent there can be no return. "Mother," she says, her voice trembling like sunlight on water, "I cannot stay always. I belong to both. If I remain too long, the balance breaks." Demeter's tears fall into the earth, and where they touch, small green shoots burst through the soil, grief flowering into beauty. Then the tales were true, she whispers. You must return to him. Yes, Persephone says, but not as captive, as keeper. Demeter looks away toward the horizon, where the sun wavers in the haze of early spring. And how long will you stay this time? Half the year, Persephone replies. When the world grows heavy with its own abundance, when the harvest sings and the fields begin to fade, I will descend again. And when the seeds stir in their sleep, I will rise once more. The answer is simple, but its weight settles deeply. Demeter closes her eyes, the rhythm of loss and renewal already threading through her heart. Then we will call those months of your return the season of bloom, she says softly, and the months of your rest the season of knowing. They stand together in silence as wind moves through the wheat. The earth around them glows faintly gold, light passing through memory. In that glow, Persephone feels something stir beneath the soil, the roots of the pomegranate tree far below, carrying her heartbeat through the dark. The rhythm is whole. Later, when Demeter sleeps, exhausted from joy and sorrow alike, Persephone walks alone beneath the moon. The air is heavy with scent, lilac, rain, new grass. Yet she feels the pull beneath her feet, the deep hum of the world's other side. She kneels, pressing her palm to the ground, and hears it clearly. The voice of Hades, distant yet near, like a river under ice. Do you miss the quiet? The earth seems to ask. I do, she whispers, but I do not mourn it. I carry it. The wind stirs. Then the realm below still breathes through you. She smiles faintly, and I through it. From her robe, she draws a single black seed, the last of the pomegranate, unplanted. She rolls it between her fingers, feeling the pulse of both life and rest within it. Then she presses it into the soil beside a new bloom of crocus. Grow, she murmurs. Grow as memory between worlds. The earth shivers gently in answer. A sprout unfurls, dark and pale at once, its leaves shaped like sighs. The cycle continues. Over the next days, spring spreads like music. Villages awaken, children laugh in fields, and temples once abandoned reopen their doors. But not all hearts are free of shadow. Some feel the faint melancholy of something lost, the echo of the underworld's stillness lingering in the edges of joy. Persephone sees it in the eyes of the people who pray to her mother. She knows what they cannot name, that joy without silence forgets itself. She begins to wander the world quietly, unseen but felt. Wherever grief gathers, flowers bloom. Where fear sleeps, water flows again. Where death lingers, new seeds rise. She is not goddess or ghost. She is rhythm, moving through all things. One night, as she walks along the river's edge, she sees her reflection. For the first time, she does not look away. The woman in the water is both maiden and queen, both light and depth. Her crown is made of listening, her robes of woven silence. Around her, stars shimmer like pomegranate seeds scattered across the sky. Perhaps this is what it means to be whole, she murmurs. Not to choose between worlds, but to become the road between them. A low voice answers in the wind, familiar and tender. And so you have. She turns, half expecting to see Hades standing there. But there is only the night, calm, knowing, infinite. Yet his presence hums within it, a warmth beneath the cool air. She smiles. Distance has lost its meaning. The moon climbs higher, and Persephone sits among the flowers, her hair glowing like a crown of dusk. Around her, the earth breathes. Life swells and sighs, and in every sound she hears both love and longing. Spring, she realizes, is not joy alone. It is grief made tender enough to bloom. As dawn begins to rise, she whispers to the sleeping world, "Rest well while you can. The rhythm will call again, and I will answer." The breeze carries her words downward, through soil and stone, until they reach the underworld below. There, among quiet roots, Hades feels the echo of her voice and closes his eyes. The river's still, listening. The dead smile faintly. The pomegranate tree stirs. All is in balance. Sleep, listener. In the next part, Persephone will return once more to the depths, where love and shadow learn to share the same name. The days of bloom pass like the breath between songs. The world, full and golden, leans toward ripeness. Fields bow beneath the weight of their gifts. Rivers run slower with satisfaction, and the air hums with the quiet fatigue of abundance. Persephone walks among it all, her bare feet tracing the lines between harvest and hush. She knows what comes next. The rhythm she planted in both worlds is calling again. Beneath the soil, roots stir with a whisper older than prayer. It is not grief that waits. It is the necessary stillness that follows fullness. Every cycle must rest, and even joy must exhale. One evening, as dusk gathers its violets across the sky, Persephone stands at the edge of a field where golden wheat trembles in the wind. The scent of earth rises, sweet and deep. She closes her eyes and listens. The underworld hums faintly beneath her, like a drum heard through layers of memory. The time has come. Demeter finds her there. "You feel it too," the harvest goddess says, though her voice trembles. Persephone turns, her face calm as moonlight. "It is not loss, mother. It is the other half of keeping." Demeter's eyes glisten. "Must the world sleep? Even the sun sets." Persephone answers gently. "Without night, dawn would have no place to begin." They embrace, their hearts beating in unison, the pulse of holding and letting go. When they part, the world pauses, as if all of creation wishes to witness the moment balance becomes beauty. Persephone kneels, pressing her hand into the soil. "Rest," she whispers. "Grow quiet, not gone." The wind carries her words, and the fields begin to bow in slow gratitude. Leaves loosen, petals fold, rivers lower their voices. Everywhere, life begins its graceful surrender to rest. The first breath of autumn moves through the world. As twilight deepens, Persephone walks toward the seam of stone, the threshold that waits for her alone. Her spindle glows faintly in her hand, golden thread winding with the rhythm of her heartbeat. She looks back once more. The world gleams in the soft fire of harvest, and above it all, her mother watches, sorrowful, yes, but no longer afraid. They have learned the rhythm together. The stone opens with a sigh, welcoming rather than claiming. She steps through. Darkness rises around her, not as a shroud but as an embrace. The air cools, fragrant with minerals and distant water. The descent begins, not falling, but returning. The spindle hums, and light follows her like a loyal thought. When she reaches the realm below, the rivers shimmer with recognition. The souls bow not in submission, but in greeting. Even the pomegranate tree glows faintly, its leaves trembling with reunion. Hades waits beside it, silent as always, yet his stillness carries warmth. You kept the rhythm, he says. And the world remembered, she replies. It sleeps now so that life may wake again. He studies her for a moment, then steps closer. Then the cycle is whole. Persephone lifts the spindle between them. It is not mine alone, she says. Every heart beats by its thread. Every grief ripens into grace. Hades takes the spindle gently, holding it as one would hold fire. Then where its weight, he says, not as burden but as music. From the shadows, a faint light begins to gather. It curls around Persephone's brow, weaving itself from silence and remembrance. A crown forms, not of metal, but of rhythm. Thin strands of night threaded with dawn. It gleams softly, alive with the pulse of both worlds. She breathes deeply. The crown is weightless, yet she feels its truth. It is not authority. It is balance made visible. The underworld hums with quiet joy. Hades bows not to a queen above him, but to an equal beside him. Welcome home, Persephone. Home, she repeats softly. The word feels vast now. Home is not the sky or the soil. It is the space between them, the heartbeat that joins their songs. Together they walk through the kingdom of listening. Along their path, the shades lift their heads. The once faded gardens bloom faintly with silver flowers that open only in her presence. The rivers gleam with starlight caught from the world above. The entire realm exhales. Life and death are not opposites here. They are partners in a single dance. Later, Persephone stands before the bloom beneath the veil, the great tree whose roots touch every world. Its blossoms shimmer softly, red as dusk, pale as dawn. She reaches out, touching one petal. Do they know? She asks. The ones above, do they feel it? They do, Hades says. They call it autumn. They call it sleep. They call it the waiting before renewal. Persephone smiles. Then the song continues. The branches tremble, scattering light like gentle rain. Each spark drifts downward, falling upon the fields of the dead, and wherever it lands, the ground blooms with faint color. The underworld grows luminous, not in defiance of shadow, but in harmony with it. She kneels at the tree's base and begins to weave again. The spindle glows between her fingers, spinning new threads from memory and silence. This time, the thread is not gold or black. It is both, twisting together into a single hue that changes as you look at it. She weaves rivers into roots, stars into stones, hearts into horizons. Every pattern she forms becomes a promise that nothing will be forgotten. When she finishes, she ties the final knot and lays the woven cloth around the base of the tree. Let this be the shape of remembering, she whispers. A circle that never ends, a rhythm that never breaks. Hades watches her, reverence in his voice. Even the gods could learn from what you have made. She stands, brushing dust from her hands. Even gods, she says softly, need to rest. They walk together through the silent halls. The throne of stone awaits, and beside it, the second seat, the one that had always been waiting. Persephone sits, not above but beside. The shadows settle around her like warm air. Her eyes close briefly, listening to the deep hum of the world. It is no longer strange. It is her pulse. In the silence that follows, time folds upon itself like cloth. Seasons above shift and turn. Below, the rivers keep their promise. When spring returns, she will rise again. When fall descends, she will come home. Each cycle will renew the song. Hades looks toward her, his voice low. You are the bridge now. She smiles faintly. Then may the bridge be wide enough for love to cross. He nods. It already is. The underworld rests. The souls hum softly, as if dreaming. Above, the snow melts where it touches the ground, revealing the first shoots of green. The pomegranate tree glows deep within the dark, its roots tangled with sunlight, its fruit heavy with memory, and the rhythm endures. Sleep now, listener. Let the story fold around you like twilight meeting dawn. For every descent is a return, every shadow a promise of light, and every silence a song waiting to be heard. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.